Hello, my dear learners. How are you? Okay, fine. I am also fine by the grace of Almighty. My dear learners, you are staying home for COVID-19 pandemic. At present, this situation is increasing than before months. I hope you will be you will be kept yourself by yourself and also your surroundings, your neighbors, your friends. If you make them conscious about the pandemic, then and also if we follow the health rules, especially for COVID-19, then we can be able to keep ourselves safe. Okay? Now, my dear learners, from my last classes, I have discussed about one of the most important topics, especially for class 9 10 grammar, second paper, grammar part. Now, I am going to discuss also one of the most important topics of class 9 and 10, voice. And before going to start my class, I would like to introduce myself. This is MAHMUD, assistant teacher, English, Rabita Model High School, Rangamati. My dear learners, I hope if you keep your mind active in my class, you will be able to clear your ideas, to transform the sentence from active to passive. My dear learners, at first, I would like to describe about what is voice. Dear learners, notice the two sentences. Mr. MAHMUD teaches English, and another sentence, English is taught. Notice the first sentence has subject, verb and object. Subject is Mr. MAHMUD, verb teach and object English. In this sentence, the subject Mr. MAHMUD can perform the work of verb. Teach, the verb teach. The work of verb can perform by Mr. MAHMUD. Okay? But in the second sentence, English is taught. In this sentence, subject is used English and the verb taught, that means past participle form of verb teach. Okay? Notice the verb English cannot perform the work of verb. That means the verb teach verb is not performed by the subject English. In this case, English is not active to perform the work of verb. So from the two sentences we can clear that the first sentence subject Mr. Mahmud can perform its work, the work of verb, but in second sentence the subject English cannot perform the work of verb by itself. Okay. So from the discussion we can say the work of verb which is the work of verb is performed by the subject, or the work of verb is performed upon the subject, that is voice. My dear learners, the action of verb which can express its subject active or passive, that is voice. Such as Mr. Mahmud, the first subject of first sentence is active, but in second sentence the subject cannot perform its work. So in this case subject is passive. So from the discussion we can clear that there are two forms of voice. Number one active, number two passive. Okay. Now what is called active voice and what is passive voice? My dear learners, you know the voice which expresses or which performs its the work of verb is performed by the subject, that is active voice, and the voice which expresses its work performed upon the subject, and that is passive voice. Okay. Now my dear learners, I am going to teach you how we can transform the sentence from active to passive. Okay. You know, if we want to transform the sentence from active to passive, we have to transform the sentences according to sentences such as assertive, interrogative, imperative, and so on. Okay. Now my dear learners, I am going to discuss the transformation of sentence from active to passive, especially one assertive sentence. Okay, my dear learners, at first, if the assertive sentence is with principal verb and present form, that means present indefinite tense. If the assertive sentence is with principal verb and present indefinite tense, then we have to follow some rules. At first, you have to keep the object as subject form. At first, we will set object as subject form. Then, according to tense and person, auxiliary verb am, is, are. And then past participle form of verb. Then extension. Number 5, by, and lastly we have to keep the subject as object form. Okay, that means subject and object will take their position opposite. Subject will be object form, and lastly object will be set as subject will be set as object form. Okay. Now, my dear learners, see an example. Mr. Mahmud teaches English. Subject Mr. Mahmud, verb teaches, and object English. Now we have to according to the rules, we have to first write object as subject English, and then as the sentence is assertive sentence and with principal verb and present form, then we have to use auxiliary verb am, is, are. Okay. If the subject is third person singular, then we shall use is, and if the subject is plural form, then we shall use are, and only if the subject is I, then we shall use am. Okay. In this case, subject English, and English is third person singular number, so we shall put auxiliary verb is. Then past participle form of verb. The past participle form of verb teach is taught. Okay, the taught. And then by, and lastly we shall use the object form of subject Mr. Mahmud. Subject and object form of proper noun is same, so we shall write Mr. Mahmud. You know, subject and object form is only for pronoun such as I. If subject is I, object will be me, you. Subject and object form of you is same. He, subject form but object for him. She, object form her. They, subject form them. Okay, my dear learners, another example. The boys play football. The boys play football. Now we shall write object ball. At first we shall take the object as subject ball, and then auxiliary verb is, because ball is third person singular, and then past participle form of verb play, played, and then by, and the object form of subject, the boys. Another example. I read a book. I read a book. Object a book, then subject auxiliary verb is, past participle form read, then by, and subject form, and the object form of subject me. Okay, my dear learners, Another rule, if the assertive sentence is with principal verb but past independence, then we have to follow some instruction. At first, we have to put subject as object as subject form, then auxiliary verb was, where. If the subject is singular, we shall write was, and if the subject is plural, then we shall use where. Okay, and then first participle form of verb, then by, and lastly subject using object form. Okay, the object form of subject. Dear learners, let's see an example. He bought five pens. He bought 5 pens. In this sentence, subject he, verb, principal verb, bought, but it's past form, and object 5 pens. It's plural. Okay. Then we shall write object as subject 5 pens. As the subject is plural, we shall use where. Then past participle form, bought, and then by, and lastly object form of subject he will be him. Okay. Now another example. Let's say another example. He helped me. He helped me. In this case, me subject, but we have to write subject form. Me object, but we have to write subject form of me, I. I is singular, so we shall use was. Past participle form of verb helped, same, helped. Then by, and lastly the object form of subject he, him. Okay, my dear learners, I hope you will be able to transform the sentence, especially if the sentence is assertive sentence with principal verb and present indefinite or past indefinite. You will practice more and more, stay in your home, and I shall discuss another rules on my next classes. Thank you. You are most welcome.